Okay, hi everyone. Hope you're okay. So this week episode is Committee in the Goddamn Cradle of Democracy. So we're going to start as always with the monologue and the cross-Atlantic crosstalk. This week we have only Julia, Ellie, and Arun that will be in Frankfurt Airport. Is it right, Arun? Hey.
Yeah.
Knock, knock.
Yeah. No. Look. I hate whatever you're saying. I'm very tired.
Where are you sleeping?
I'm not. I was, look, I'm 50 years old, and when 50-year-old people sleep, they're resting their eyes. And the reason that I'm resting my eyes is because I've barely just recovered from looking at little bits of French with the Bastille Day, because everyone was on vacation and I made the show by myself. And was the show a big success? Yes, clearly. But I feel like there's not any give and take in the schedule. And so this is what's happening. You know what I mean? I'm burning out. And so, I just wish that there was a way that while I'm in Switzerland next week, that you all would take over some of the segments. But I know, that what would happen?
We can do that.
We can do it. We can do it.
You're saying can. Are you all saying you could do that?
No, we got it. We got it.
Absolutely.
We got it,
What's the problem?
Well, look, the theory of indispensable men has been dispensed with, but, we'll talk about this later.
La imagen por la cual vale la pena arriesgar la vida, sacrificarse hasta la muerte en los campos de batalla de todos los continentes del mundo.
Live from Athens, it's the Committee Program, the chronicle of the world's most mysterious global political strategic communications entity. On today's show, Monday, July 19, Ellie Hagan, Marina Prentoulis, Giorgos Venizelos, Yannis Orestis-Papadimitriou, Keegan Gudas and his robot Arun, Nomiki Konst, and featuring, of course, Deputy Director of Committee Julia Doubleday and the rest of the committee gang. And now, a man who has never been so tired on his 50 years of life, but doesn't want to be known as a guy who complains, Arun Chaudhary.
Hi, everybody. Jacopo, that's right. That's right. You know what I mean? A lot of things, but I do not want to be known as a complainer. And that means that when I complain, you need to make sure that you don't tell people about it. You know what I mean? You got to keep that in the circle, because that way I won't be known as a person who complains. You see what I'm saying? You don't need me to say more in all my 50 years. So, look, you think that you could do this announcement thing even if I wasn't here?
Well, maybe. I can try.
Would you need me to leave you any instructions about it or anything?
Well, you already do. So.
Okay. We'll see. Right. So look, I was going to do a whole thing. I was going to do our 60-second thing as an explainer on the blockade in Cuba. I actually think I can do it in much less, because after that I want to bring Ahmed on, who used his last week before he's going off to grad school off to California to go to film school. So I think that we should bring him on and make sure that the audience gets a good look at who's been editing a lot of the footage and stuff. But the first thing that I do want to explain to people is a lot of people, they're talking about this blockade in Cuba, and they're like, well, how can it actually be the U.S.'s fault that there's no syringes there when, everyone else doesn't know about blockade with Cuba? How come no syringes get there? I just wanted to, and I would have done it in a more engaging 60 seconds, my arms flapping around way. But look, this is not like a Napoleonic thing where there's boats looking for people landing or whatever. What it is it's a commercial strangulation. And so it's that a boat that's going to land in Havana that's from a country that will trade with them cannot stop in any American port or in any port of a certain level of ally with America, right? And so then you have people, having huge tankers full of goods that it doesn't make sense for them commercially to just take that to Cuba. And so that is the sort of insidious way that it really becomes an effective blockade. And so when you have a country with as advanced sort of biomedical facilities as Cuba that can't get enough syringes to vaccinate its people. This is why you see such sort of anger, I think, especially in the American left, at kind of finger wagging and, why can't this communist country take care of their people? It's actually, the embargo has been a successful project for a very long time. What's been remarkable is that the Cuban government has held. That's what's remarkable, not that somehow the embargo should have worked by now. It's not a schlumpy embargo. All right, let's leave it at schlump. And speaking of a person who is no schlump, let's bring in Ahmed. Let's bring in Ahmed Uthman, and also put 60 seconds on the board, but don't start it yet. Ahmed, glad you were free enough to join us. I know the monologue, we just we just drag people in at whatever time they are, wherever they are. I can tell from the sky and from the digital framing around you that you're in London, because I'm a genius and I'm good at this kind of thing. And also I knew that you were in London.
I can show you around and see the buses.
But look, you're leaving the show, and I think people never really got a chance to get to know you as our editor because you're so behind the scenes. You don't do any of these ridiculous banter things with me. You're actually making it happen in a much different way. So I wanted to make sure that we, at least in 60 seconds, got to know you a little better, because we care about you, but about 60 seconds worth. So that's sort of, that's a general committee show vibe, right? Okay. So,
happy to participate.
Good. You are happy to participate. You're still part of this team today, okay? You are happy to participate. Yes.
That's
right.
And even move forward. Move forward. Still part of the team. But,
no, that's right. And I want to bring you in on segments, especially the stuff that's going on. But let's let the people get a look at you. So, 60 seconds on the board, and I didn't put 6 seconds on my board yet. And go. Okay. So, Ahmed, where are you from? What's your actual origin story?
So I'm originally from Ghana. Born and raised. Spent the first 20 years of my life in Ghana. I came here for college. I did my undergrad in film at Howard University. Actually went to Howard straight from the airport. Didn't have no family here or no friends, so I came straight from Ghana to Howard, and my experience has been great.
From Dulles to Howard. Yeah, Dulles is really the worst invitation into America. It doesn't make you feel like you're welcome there.
I remember getting on my cab going to campus. I did not know whether he was actually taking me to campus or he was going to sell me somewhere. So I was scared getting in the cab, 20-year-old guy just leaving his home for the first time with no family and stuff. But it happened. So. And
then you're a filmmaker. So where did that passion come from? And before, I would love to hear more about you as a filmmaker.
So I was actually in medical school back in Ghana.
This I never knew.
So it's like a thing. If you have good grades, coming out of high school, you can apply for a 6-year medical school program straight. So you don't have to do 4 years undergrad and 4 years graduate program. You just do a 6-year program. So I was there the first year, and I could not see myself being a medical doctor for the rest of my life. So I was exploring, reading Lenin, Russia, and studying the piano, philosophy, and all of that. And I found this BBC playwriting competition where you could write plays. So I wrote a play about my dad. He's loosely based on his life, and I really enjoyed the process. I'm like, okay, maybe I could, write. So then I started exploring more, and I'm like, I like writing, but not narrative fiction writing, maybe film writing. So that's how I got into film. And
we're already past our minute, and I will say, we're going to keep talking, and that's not a problem. The minute was actually a test to see if you would actually get me in the story within a minute, and you did not, right? I don't know how you're even talking about this more than a minute without how we met and how great it was. So now I want to fast forward to Revolution Messaging. How did you find your way into Rev and into this weird world of political filmmaking that we live in?
So, funny thing about Rev is after graduating in 2018, I applied to get into Rev. I applied to Rev, but I did not. I interviewed, but I didn't get the position.
Eric's tough.
And so I was thinking about starting. Yes, I didn't get the position. I was thinking about starting grad school, and I remember that Eric and Hillary, they said they like me so much, but then if anything pops up, they'll let me know. So when I decided not to go to grad school, I think I had emailed them again, is this position open? Because I like the work Rev did, because I looked up on it, and it kind of what do you say? It lined up with some of my values. So I did hit him up, and they said the position was open again. So I interviewed, and I got in. And I was really blessed to meet everybody and just learn so much on the side of things, like especially like American politics and world left progressive politics, all of that, and just myself as just like a person. I don't call myself an organizer or an activist, but I think just like being aware of what's going on in the world and just having a viewpoint and being able to do what you can in your own little word to help out or even make it better in a kind of way. Maybe educate the people around you. It's one of the great things I've been blessed to learn at the rep and at community program. I feel like the community program is a continuation of rep in some sort of way. With you and everybody who comes and to meet everybody from around the world who share some of the same values.
I was going to make some stupid joke about something, but you actually about making propaganda and how does it feel and all this, but actually you just put that so eloquently and so nicely, and we're going to miss you so much, Ahmed. I don't know what else to say except good luck at USC. You're going to kill it. You're going to be back all the time. And how should people, if they want to get in touch with you as a filmmaker and need your help and can find you, as we say about the A-Team, how should they go about doing that?
I wouldn't say my Twitter, but my Twitter is mostly just soccer, like maybe some memes and stuff. But like my email, my first name AHMED CNOE Charlie Nancy Echo, Orange Echo @gmail.com. So if you have like a particular gig like in LA, film, video, just shoot me an email and I'll be happy.
World, you have a friend in Los Angeles, and their name is Ahmed Uthman. Thank you, Ahmed, for everything, and we got to get on with the show.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Hi, and welcome to the committee program. I am your host, Arun Chaudhary, and this is Cross-Atlantic Crosstalk. On the show, as ever, the show's on Julia Doubleday and Ellie Mae O'Hagan, the director of the Class think tank in the United Kingdom. Let's get them up. Let's get them up.
They're not there. I don't know. They're not in the waiting room.
Okay. You see, this is what happens when I don't micromanage every little thing. And this is for sure what's going to happen next week if I let you maniacs run the show without me, right? There's going to be missing things. We're not going to be talking about things. Like here we're not talking about Matt Hancock resigning. We're not talking about actual climate change related deaths in Germany. We're not talking about see, I don't even know what we're not talking about because Julia's not here, and as we know, she's the brains of the operation. So I don't know. Next week, I don't know, man. Hi, and welcome to Cross-Atlantic Crosstalk. I am your host, Arun Chaudhary, and I am joined by no one. In the news, we wanted to talk a bit about these floods in West Germany, actually killing about 100 people. I'm assuming most of that. Someone who lived in Houston, I'm assuming a lot of that's people being trapped in cars. Please do not attempt to drive your car through floodwaters. This is absolutely the worst way to do it. But also, I found it shocking as, a newly transplanted person in Germany that the infrastructure in West Germany would be so poor as to allow all these things to happen. And it just shows that no matter where you are, no matter how developed the place you're in is, our infrastructure is not adequate to the actual disaster that is unfolding, that is climate change. It is a disaster. Other disasters, we're seeing spikes come up and people playing politics with COVID as reopenings are happening in a way that's almost certain to send both the US and Europe into lockdowns, to say nothing of the developing world, which we failed to vaccinate when we had the chance. Not totally feeling good about that either. Third thing we're not feeling good about is that in America, we've definitely seen Joe Biden start to fall short on really pushing some of these huge reconciliation packages through. And it feels a bit like when Julia tells us that the worst form of climate denial is when you acknowledge it's real, but then don't do enough. Everywhere we look, on every issue, I feel like we see people not doing enough. And it makes me sad and it makes me scared. And that's not a good way to start the show, but there we are. Got it. Hey, before we get into the rodeo, Forrest, we're at the airport. You're going to need to put a mask on.
Oh, I'm not at the airport.
Just put a mask on. They keep saying it on. You got to do it. Cyberspace, virtual space, whatever. Let's get a mask on for this.
Okay, boss.
Das ist good. Das ist good.
Sehr good.
Hi, and welcome to your Global News Rodeo, where we round up a lot of important events happening around the world, and it is curated by our own Forrest Lovette. Let's go. Item number 1, Haitian turmoil. More suspects are named in assassination. Deutsche Welle is reporting that there are new suspects in the assassination of Haiti's president, Jovenel Moïse. Moïse was shot and killed in his own house in Port-au-Prince on June 7th. Haitian authorities say they have already arrested 21 people in connection with the plot, and the search continues for several others, including an anti-corruption official and a former senator. The interim prime minister, Claude Joseph's legitimacy, is being challenged by the opposition parties as he and the acting government prepare for the state funeral. Meanwhile, Joseph has asked for the U.S. and the UN to send troops with the political unrest. And we're hearing more and more about how this may have been engineered in Miami, which is, of course, where all of the right-wing, reactionary, paramilitary, horrible plots are hatched that then get unleashed on the Caribbean and Latin America writ large. Item number 2, too much gas in the gas bag, Bolsonaro hospitalized. NPR reports Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro remains hospitalized after suffering from a 10-day bout of hiccups. The doctors say Bolsonaro will not need to go another operation, which is good news for the embattled leader, who has had multiple surgeries and complications following a stabbing attack in 2018. It comes at a very inopportune time as support for the far-right president has dropped significantly, and amidst his administration's atrocities, handling of the pandemic, as well as rampant corruption and many scandals. Also, this guy is like always sick with something weird. Like, it does not stop. He has, like, you know, embarrassing ailments kind of just tumble in on each other. I guess I kind of relate. Item number 3, Moldova mandate. Elections produce a clear winner. Euronews reports Moldova's parliamentary elections have ended with the center-right party, the Party of Action, and Solidarity earning 48% of the votes. President Maia Sandu, the leader of PAS, beat out socialist incumbent Igor Dodon last November and now has received a convincing mandate as she looks to steer the country towards Brussels and away from Russia in a pro-European reformist movement. Sandu spoke after the election win, saying she hoped the result would signify the end of the reign of thieves in Moldova. Item 4, EU wants to see you. Top court's rules against head coverings. Politico Europe reports the Court of Justice of the European Union has ruled that companies can restrict the wearing of headscarves and other religious garments. The new declaration bans any visible form of expression of political, philosophical, or religious beliefs in the workplace. However, the Luxembourg Tribunal has stated that EU countries should consider whether banning headdresses constitutes a genuine need for any employer. The controversial case went to the top court when 2 Muslim women in Germany were forced to remove their coverings after returning from parental leave. I do have to say, as an American transplant in Europe, the way that Europeans sometimes turn their sort of quote-unquote secular values, something you see Macron kind of do all the time, into kind of a blunt instrument to go after minorities is a way in which they are intolerant that's different than the ways Americans are intolerant. They got a different flavor. Item number 5, peace out. PM quits amid gridlock. Al Jazeera is reporting Prime Minister-designate Saad Hariri has resigned amid ongoing crisis in Lebanon. Hariri failed to form a government following an unbridgeable disagreement with the country's president. Supporters of the PM-designate and his party flooded the streets in Beirut and surrounding areas, blocking roads and setting trash fires. Additionally, the Lebanese lira has hit an all-time low in response to political uncertainty. The political stalemate continues even after diplomatic pressure from France, the US, Saudi Arabia, and the EU has failed to find a compromise. I will actually say I have some friends who live in Beirut, and the situation has been, it's not just getting bad, it has been very bad, with you being limited in the amount of money you can take out of your ATMs and being scared people will leave with cash out of the country, out of the city. And it's absolutely just been a devastating time for Lebanon. And Rania Khalek has an amazing tweet thread that really struck at my heart, where she was like, the kind of disintegration of this country is something that we should expect everywhere because of the pressures of climate change and political pressures, etc. We're going to see places that are stable become unstable. And we're watching Lebanon disintegrate in front of our eyes. Item 6, Cuban crisis or crisis in Cuba. Socialist workers report thousands of protests in Cuba this past week. The protests are in response, seemingly in anger towards a combination of high food prices, gas prices, economic instability, and rising COVID-19 deaths in the country. The demonstrations turned violent in the capital city of Havana, with protesters throwing cobblestones at police and pro-government supporters, etc. Among those arrested were prominent members of the left party. As we all know, sanctions by the U.S., specifically the inhumane blockade put on, have crippled the economy and were tightened very specifically by President Trump. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel said, "We will not allow anyone to manipulate our situation," in reference to the all but guaranteed U.S. involvement in the turmoil. Again, one can assume something happened in Miami, probably setting, forth the social media that pushed some of this forward. But the bottom line is, we have structural international problem when we have a country that is so steeped in biomedical expertise and has one of the best vaccines in the world, but through simple economic strangulation cannot have the syringes it needs to actually put that in people's arms. And we're going to see how this plays out, but I think you will see more and more protest footage on TV that is old, because from all accounts I hear, it's actually very quiet in Cuba right now. But this was a big shot taken by some people who've been waiting for a long time. And so they're going to want their shot to work. And I think you'll see a lot of people putting their shoulder behind it. Forrest, mask back up, man. Put the mask back up. All right, listen. So next week, and unfortunately it's lucky number 13 episode, you really think that you could actually handle delivering the global news rodeo? That you could actually get your finger doing this thing? You could do the wag, that you could do the wag, that you can do the point, and that you can make different size points? Don't mock me. You think you got this?
Well, it takes a lot of work. There's a guy named Forrest Lovette who has to write all of this. And
all right. You're mocking me.
I just wanted to check in because you all seemed, pretty sure and pretty ready to jump in the pool. And it's not easy. And for instance, you may not have the same skills that I do. I was the youngest professor in the history of NYU grad film school. And I think that to hold everyone to those same standards.
Okay. Wait a minute. Don't worry. We can do that. I mean, it's impressive. We all appreciate it, but we can do that.
I met Gorbachev once.
Hi,
Hi, and welcome back to the committee program. I'm your host, Arun Chaudhary, and this is another edition of Smart Club, which many people don't know is actually named after an album by the V-Necronomicons, who are, of course, the kind of electric lounge band that came out of Funbox joining up with the Moonglow Cocktails. None of that is what we're talking about today. Today, we're actually talking about Greek politics, appropriate because I'm in Greece, but also because committee is starting to think about working in Greek politics and in the Greek elections. And so I'm going to be learning alongside of you because it's something that I feel that I don't know enough about, and I know in general Americans don't. The complexity of modern Greek politics do not often burst into the American consciousness, but it is safe to say the Greek struggle in the face of the austerity project and the ascendancy of the Syriza party in 2015 did fire up the imagination of the global left, including the post-Occupy Wall Street United States. This ascendancy, as I'm sure we'll touch upon, was brief, but other than hearing bursts of warnings about the rise of the far right, Greek politics is very often occluded from our normal view of vision. So, look, it's a hard language, but it's an incredibly beautiful and rich cultural place, so let's all learn together. Our professors to teach us this today will be Giorgos Venizelos, a PhD candidate in political science at the Faculty of Political and Social Sciences, Center of Social Movement Studies at the Scuola Normale in Florence, Dr. Marina Prentoulis, who is the Associate Professor of Politics and Media at the University of East Anglia, and Yannis Orestis-Papadimitriou, a member of the investigative journalism outfit The Manifold, host of The Archipelago on Movement Radio. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
You know, look, I was going to ask, and maybe, Marina, maybe you can help us out, but ask at the very beginning by telling you what nice left-wing Americans know about modern Greece, which is some of us have read Z, and some of us know there was a deal to make sure that Greece didn't go communist in 1947, and there was a big fight about it. But look, there's a lot to fill in. So what can you tell us about the traditional left and right parties in post-war Greece? It's a huge question. I appreciate you even trying.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Although I disagree with you with your view of Americans, I think you know quite a lot. I've seen American movies that they mention Greece. You have a lot of Greek restaurants, and there is a big Greek community in the US as well. So in terms of history, as you said, things start, let's say, a good starting point will be after the Second World War, where there was a civil war. The country was divided. On the one hand, you had communists, let's say, the left, that they had fought for the liberation of Greece. On the other hand, you had the right wing or Nazis, some of them collaborators of Nazi Germany, and we had a big civil war. This is a big moment for Greek history because it has shaped Greek politics since then. As we progress, you will see the same forces dividing Greece. We had dictatorships. Again, on the one hand, the colonels, you have to know about the dictatorship between 67 and 74 in Greece. Most of the people know about that, but again, you had the same divisions. On the one hand, you had the progressive forces. On the other hand, you have the extreme right, the Nazis, the fascists, and so on. So one of the reasons maybe that Americans, but also other Europeans, don't know much about Greece is because it hasn't developed as other mature liberal democracies. And I'm not saying that because I want to celebrate everything that liberal democracies have to offer, but it is a very different structure and how things were happening in Greece. So some of the things that they still dominate Greece, they have to do with shadow state, things that operate not in a very transparent way. There is still a lot of clientelism. Whoever is in government, it imposes their own people. So these structures, I don't say that they don't exist in other countries, but they are very pronounced in Greece. And the institutions, of course, of the state, they haven't developed in a way that they make them autonomous, let's say, or as autonomous as possible from different governments. Big thing, things change in 1981 with PASOK, which comes to government. And now I know the politics of Giorgos, who is also on the left, and he wouldn't like that. But the reality is that in 81, when PASOK was elected, a lot of people were in the streets. They were celebrating for days. And the reason was that it was the first time that all these people that in the previous dictatorships had been excluded, and excluded, I mean exiles, I mean imprisonments, I mean having files with their political beliefs in police stations and not being able to find jobs. In 81, this changes with introduction, with the winning of PASOK, which is promising. As a promise, it was that it will bring all these excluded, the left, the progressives, inside the political process. As years go by and PASOK became one of the dominant parties in Greece, and the other was New Democracy, which is the right-wing party, of course things change and the promise becomes less of the promise, and there are a lot of scandals again which are related with PASOK, and progressively we move to the situation that, you know, with the economic crisis. For us, it started in 2010 when George Papandreou announced that we will be subjecting to a lending agreement. And this is the moment that we have things again change. People go in the streets. They occupy the big squares of Athens. The same process is happening in Spain as well. And the demands of the people are now taken on by a new party that emerges from all this, which is Syriza, the radical left party of Greece, which won the elections in 2015. I think I should stop because I'm talking too much.
No, that's perfect. You did incredibly brought us up to the present. And if I can kick it over exactly there, Giorgos, to you, what was the opening left open by this structure that meant that a force like Syriza could come together so quickly, you know, in a movement way, right? But don't let me put words in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we should. I should start from something Marina already mentioned from the previous years. Marina spoke about the incorporation of marginalized sectors in the new era, and here I want to say that the economic crisis of 2008 in Greece that arrived a bit later was rather a moment of rupture, a moment that created like a discontinuity between now and the previous moments, the previous era where sectors of society were well-being, relatively prosperous, and so on. So the economic crisis was such a rupture that created deep economic issues, which later have reflected on the political arena as well. Due to the depth of the crisis and the actually severe, even anthropological reactions, impact that it had on the Greek society, the economic crisis has eventually delegitimized the political system. Until that moment, as Marina said, the political system was basically what we call a two-party system. Basically, we had governments run by PASOK, the New Democracy, then PASOK again, the New Democracy, and so on. Mm-hmm. So for all these years so that moment, due to the crisis, people started being disillusioned, disappointment against what they call the political establishment. And they started turning their backs towards these parties that used to be dominant, respectable. People voted for them, but that moment changed everything. And what we can say here is that there was a gap, a void in the political system in Greece. There was a void of representation. Many political parties have tried to fill that void. The most successful actor was the radical left party of Syriza that emerged from 3% to actually seizing the state in 2015. Yeah, exactly. And we can say that this has happened because of some effective framing, a very nice narrative that was actually convincing for the Greek citizens. A narrative that basically said Look, guys, we as people are no longer taken into account by the politicians. The political system is corrupt. Here is an option. We are the option. We can take power and we can transform things into a better future. And at this moment, all the differences that different groups of societies, different classes, different identities, different demands started in a way speaking to each other and creating in a way a sort of collective identity, the people as we call it.
Yeah, that's why I think in my mind I describe it as a movement as in the beginning as much as a party, because it does have this sort of coming together in an idea as much as specifically, like, it's a good messaging, but then I guess the devil's always in the details. I mean, Yannis, let me ask you, when you have this sort of traditional center-left dealing with this international, monetary demands and stuff, I mean, do you see this as fueling the populism, as we would call it, that kind of brought people together? Or do you see this as something that just diminished the traditional power there, and then what was already there amongst precarious workers, perhaps, etc., came together into the Syriza project? Which, I mean, what's chicken and the egg here?
Well, I think the clue is that something that Marina mentioned earlier, which is about what's called clientelism in Greece. This is generally a conservative critique of what's going on, but there is some aspects of truth to it. I mean, ever since democracy was established as pretty much a little bit normalized, because it wasn't like that before 1974. This is 50 years. It's not a lot. I mean, it's in historical time. It's like learning to walk on about how to build a democracy. So, in essence, we have to see that what was happening with the center-left was transformative at the time. You can see that the center-left was something very different in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, by the end of the 2000s, and I would say now, because I think we have there is some left-wing background to Syriza that is solid and it's very interesting, but the truth is that at this moment, it is occupying the place of the center-left. And there are some very interesting changes in this whole trajectory. I mean, for example, we had in the 80s PASOK was pretty much a cross between Olof Palme and the Swedish socialists, and then Baathists or Arab socialists or something like that. And then in the 90s, you get pretty much a third-way socialist party, something like that's close to Tony Blair or Gerhard Schroeder and something like this. So we have this transformation. We have this. I don't think it's that strange, for example, to have these two parties changing power every now and then. This is what happens pretty much most Western countries. So what did Syriza do? After austerity came in, and it's important that socialists, I mean, this paternalist party of the center, were the ones that brought austerity in. All these agendas had to go to someone else. And I think the small story is that Syriza was smart enough to strike deals with them, in a way, to bring them in, to create a coalition of all these agendas, these interests that have been emptied out by austerity measures, and then try to build a strategy around them. Now, there were some leftists inside the party. There were some factions inside the party that actually thought that, okay, since this has happened, since the structure of Greek society and economy is changing radically, we can actually take this discomfort and these agendas and take them to an agenda of our own. But what is happening now, ever since Syriza caved in 2015, is first that they went back doing politics as usual. I mean, negotiating all these balances between different business interests or privileged group interests, and also trying to occupy the center. I mean, if you listen to Alexis Tsipras, the former prime minister and the president of Syriza nowadays, he talks about the center left. He calls Syriza the center left. I mean, leftist in Greece, the leftist agenda, the populist agenda, has pretty much been emptied. What is interesting now, though, is that he's still being accused of it. He's still being accused of populism. Although Syriza does not have any populist traits anymore, they don't have anything that resembles a left-wing populism. And I would even say that Syriza's decision to pivot to the center was pretty much damaged all left-wing populism in Europe after 2015. Yeah, he's now being accused of it without having any similar characteristics. And what is this doing? It is pushing everything to the right. It is pushing the Overton window, as we call it, to the right. So yeah, I would say this is what the story would say.
I do want to get into two things you said there. You said a lot and little, where you're like, and then of course when Syriza caved, I think we should bring our audience up to exactly what you mean by that, if you don't mind sort of spelling that out a little further. And then afterwards, Marina, I'd love for you to talk about how maybe some of this opportunity of populism then did falter into the harder or farer right, as we call it. But let's hear exactly what happened with Syriza and what you call caving in.
Okay, Syriza actually rose as a protest party against austerity. There was mass popular mobilization underneath it in the streets. So they managed to take this, what was called the anti-memorandum agenda. This is the anti-austerity agenda, essentially. They were elected into office in 2015. They couldn't strike a deal for a different set of politics with Greece's creditors, the EU, the IMF, and the ECB. And in 2015, this led to a referendum where people in Greece voted by 61% against continuing austerity. And then Syriza went on and brought a new austerity program, which is and pivot to the center.
So sort of exactly the same thing that happened to the last set of folks. But yeah, so Marina, where did this energy go then? And how did this help fuel this kind of, because we did hear a bit about, that obviously Golden Dawn has a cool name in English, so people were very attuned. But tell us more about the far right.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say something in what Yannis, to add to what Yannis was saying.
Sure,
so 2015 to 2019, we have a Syriza government. It is implementing the memorandum agreements. I think they were trying also to do some things to make the situation less worse, but that was very small and possibly other people have different opinions.
It's also really hard. I mean, to give credit.
It is quite hard, and there are other reasons, I think, that Syriza had to do some things which has to do with the big groups in Syriza and who was giving the direction and so on. I'm saying all that because I was in Syriza back then, and I have a type of trajectory that Yannis was describing. I was very active in there, and then now, although I'm just a friend, I'm not part of it. I don't think there is space for me to do there, to fight in there, to do something. So what happened is that, and again, Arun, this is for you. The Americans know quite a lot about what I'm going to say now, because you had a similar experience with Trump, and Trump, it's something, this alt-right is a very particular case, which is mainstreaming the extreme right. And this is something what happened in Greece with the new right-wing government that it was elected in 2019, which looks as a progressive liberal, but actually it has incorporated a lot of the far-right elements, some of which they go back to Golden Dawn. Golden Dawn was an organization that it had, if you want things, that it was a fascist organization. It was represented in parliament, I mean. And it was a criminal organization. A few years ago, there was the verdict of the court. Thousands of us were outside the court waiting for them to be declared a criminal organization. But that doesn't mean that they have disappeared. They have been incorporated with this right-wing party, which presents occasionally itself as liberal, but it's very liberal, and it is creating a very police state in Greece. Why is that? I think part of that has to do with what Yannis was saying and the failure of Syriza to go on inspiring things. It is also for me desire to go back to what for Greeks it will be the normal thing, the normal life, and aspiring to big plans of investment and so on, which are not happening. And most of us, what we are waiting is the next crisis that I think it's going to be imminent, and I want to see what will happen there, because we don't have right now the forces on the left that I think they could deal with that. I don't know what Yannis and Giorgos think.
Yeah, well, Giorgos, I would ask you just, what does the landscape of the, say, progressive side of things, left, center, left, this is all getting a little tricky, but what does that kind of spectrum look like now? And I'm going to ask you, Yannis, actually, because Giorgos is having connection problems.
Okay, could you repeat the question, actually, because...
Yeah. So what does the landscape of the progressive left look like now with a much shrunken Syriza? Did everyone go over to the New Democrats, who maybe you can also tell us a little more about? Or are they unaffiliated or affiliated with some kind of a civic left, like in Italy, the kind of disaffected just end up dispersing themselves in this civic world?
Well, there's, first of all, there's a mainstay of the traditional left, that's a Communist Party of Greece, which is like 5 to 6% always in the election. It's always in parliament. Well, so there's something there. There's a beacon of the left there with all its problems. There's a smaller party that has just entered parliament under former Minister of Finance, Yannis Varoufakis, which is, okay, it has some left-wing elements.
Who Americans will be familiar with,
yeah,
I think
he's
actually,
quite well known.
As a figure.
It has some left-wing elements, although they don't really match with the traditional left. It's innovative in its own ways, in both good and bad, but that's a whole different conversation. There's a strong extra-parliamentary left, which has you can find very active in unions, in universities, in the arts, maybe in journalism even. But it doesn't really have any electoral output. It's like stuck in less than 1% in the election. So, yeah, there's this situation. But what is happening now is that all these have been badly heard, because the truth is, and I will say this is a very unpopular opinion, Syriza had this particular history. It had a particular relation to the center left that the rest of the left in Greece did not have. Okay. So, but despite that, I think that the problems that led to Syriza going down the way it did, I think are the ones that are plaguing the left in its entirety. So a lot of the crisis, apart from going into Syriza, has gone to the rest of the left, which is, I have to say, it is very strong. Don't get me wrong to this, and there's a lot of bright moments to it, even in these hard times now. But they're still trying to regroup, because I think that Syriza was revealing as to some problems that no one had ever even thought of.
It has to do with problems, I think, within the party as well, Yannis. How much you have a chance to shape the policies, to participate in there. And I think for me, this was also a big part. That's why I said, I don't know what I would be able to do within the party. I don't think there is space to do things.
I mean, do you see, is there a good parallel here with the Cinque Stelle, where it's sort of when you do try to create this big tent governing majority with populists and a bit of this and a bit of that, you end up having to have an ideological flexibility that is never a clear message to your membership?
I don't think the ideological flexibility is a problem with the Cinque Stelle, for example. It's that the way no one has ever really thought of the way politics are produced. That's a problem that is, I think, is plaguing the left in Greece, in Italy, or populism in Italy, because the left is a strange word for Italy nowadays, or even the US, for example. But the whole importance of it is how you do politics. I mean, Syriza found itself at a place where it was actually, there was no one that could, there were no, set up apparatuses that could actually represent a different agenda. It was like the politics were automated of what was going on. It was like, this is what's going to happen with public finance. This is what's going to happen with the market. This is what's going to happen with Europe. This is what's going to happen with everything. It's still on autopilot. And that's the problem with it, that no one has really thought of how you do politics inside such a structure that is diverse and, multifaceted.
Well, I'm not a historian or a reporter. I actually am someone who works in the mechanic of politics. And so when I land in somewhere and I start to talk about this stuff, I want to know who the swing voters are, right? Who are the people who are changing from election to election? Marina, can you describe who you think they are? Are they precarious workers, generally lower middle class? Is it sort of the same classic story, or is there something special?
I think in Greece, it depends which period we are talking about. 2015, it was a different story. People wanted to end austerity, and people that you wouldn't believe that they would vote for Syriza, they did vote at that point for Syriza.
With an aspirational sense of something, yeah.
Yes, of changing the situation, not because necessarily they started belonging to the left or anything like that. And in this sense, I think Syriza knows that a lot of its votes are going to be from people that possibly before they were PASOK, they were this center. This is why, as Yannis was saying, they have moved toward that direction, because what they have in their mind is the electoral outcome. The problem there is that the people who were doing the work on the ground, and you know a lot about that stuff, again, not only in Greece, but in the UK as well, we are learning from the Obama campaign about community organizing. All this community organizing and so on, which is associated with elections, it has stopped. It doesn't work in the same way in Greece. And these were people on the left that they were doing that. That was the main power, the activists on the left. So this, I think, it's a big problem for Syriza. I think it's going to have a good. It will continue having a good electoral outcome in the sense that the progressive people will vote for Syriza. But as it stands now, of course, it depends what will happen in the future and if we will find ourselves in a new crisis. I don't think it's going to win again the next election, I'm afraid to say, because I say it and I'm thinking how many people will die, will become unemployed with the government that we have right now in Greece. Yeah? So I'm not saying that without a lot of pain.
Yeah, it's just putting together an entire electoral majority is hard. Yannis, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking that the question of the swing voters is very interesting, because what Syriza has decided, and they're saying this, is that there is a middle class, which, it has a lot of different meanings depending on which country you're in. But in Greece, it seems to imply that the people who are somewhat well off, they're not the rich and powerful, but they're somewhat well off. Well, that's a very small percentage. And Syriza is believing that's where it has its politics now are based on getting back this supposedly centrist middle class. Okay, first of all, this in Greece is this middle class in Greece is very small, it's very conservative, it's always been very conservative, and the rest of it is non-existent. It's not. I mean, there is if you see at the income rates in Greece, this middle class that they're describing is not there. And second of all, this is the exact same mistakes that center-left parties in Europe and the US have done throughout the 2000s. The exact same mistake. And they're choosing to go with it in 2020 and 2021. I mean...
Look, you're putting this in terms I will say our audience definitely understands, which is sort of, the mythical scooping of the center voters. I think part of the problem is the trap of falling into left-right, period, right? People are a scattershot of different issues that they care about, and plotting them on the seating chart of the French Revolution is maybe not the most sensible thing that all of us continue to do every day. Giorgos, can I ask you a bit about the current government? Who are its coalition? How is it holding together a governing majority in this sticky situation?
Well, technically this government is governing alone, but we can say that it has some other extra parliamentary coalitions. The picture is quite complicated because on the one hand, you see like some sort of neoliberal turn or like a neoliberal identity in this government. But on the other hand, you see some sort of authoritarian tendencies. Lockdowns were pretty strong, pretty strict.
And it seems like this has sort of been a successful coalition in many spots in Europe, even through the pandemic, which always seems a bit surprising. We don't know, and rates in Greece are not good right now since the opening of tourism a bit, right? So we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But in terms of there being new elections, being an opening, I know it's not scheduled for a couple of years. What are the things that we should be looking for, especially on the progressive left? And anyone can answer this who has an answer. But what can an international audience be looking for as indicators of maybe a growing strength coming from the progressive side as an answer to this government, or can we not expect that?
I think that Yannis and Marina gave us already an indication of where this is going. Syriza, as Yannis said, has occupied pretty much the whole parliamentary space of the left, and it doesn't leave much alternative within the parliament. Obviously, as Yannis said, there are other political activities that are happening outside the parliament, but within like conventional politics, I am not sure whether there is a viable alternative at the moment. There is obviously Varoufakis's DM25 movement that is represented in the parliament, but I am not sure what it's gonna do in the next elections. I think it's gonna keep its percentages quite where they are. I think the big thing for the upcoming elections, whenever they are, is that there is an absence of political oppositions, at least within the parliament, and I don't personally think that things change. Obviously, there is no end of history, as Fukuyama said, and political mobilization is always contingent and reactivating. So who knows? Maybe another crisis would be another window of opportunity for new political actors on the progressive front.
Marina, let me ask you, is it going to take another crisis to kind of bang the system back out to the left a bit? As you've said, it's kind of shifted. Yannis was saying the Overton window has shifted. What's it going to take to shift back?
I think there is going to be a crisis. I told you before, I'm so sorry about that, but I don't see how Greece is going to avoid another crisis, especially because of the spending of the current right-wing government. I mean, again, you have this clientelism, you have the big scandals emerging and re-emerging where a lot of state money have been appropriated for their voters, for those they helped the right-wing government to come to power. On top of that, you have the pandemic. On top of that, you have a huge debt that it goes already back to the other crisis. So I'm not sure that we will manage to avoid another crisis. But apart from thinking, I agree with Giorgos what he said about opposition. So we are still waiting for a much stronger opposition. But I always have my faith in social movements, what is happening in the ground as well. And as I said, this government, this right-wing government, has incorporated a lot of alt-right elements. So it is very misogynistic, it is very much into conservative religious beliefs and so on. And what I see in Greece, which gives me some hope, is a lot of women being in the streets, talking against domestic violence, talking against rapes. So you see something like a movement which goes, although it doesn't talk about elections, it goes against this agenda, this authoritarian, right-wing, very right-wing for me, agenda of the current government. So it will depend also on what is happening on the ground and how much opposition we have on the ground from groups that they cannot take this authoritarianism that they are projecting.
And, you know, something that comes up on the show a lot is the idea that storytelling when there's not an election time is so much more effective than when there is. And when you're telling stories about issues that matter to you and not asking for a vote, and this is what the right wing is so good at, right? Always just telling you a story for no other reason than they would like you to listen. I think you might be our most cynical panel member, Yannis, so I'm going to leave the last word to you, but I'm going to insist that you give a hopeful vision of what people can be looking for as they're watching Greek politics, who they should be rooting for. Is it the rise of issue-driven civic left? As Marina is saying, is it, I'm going to try to put you in a box of having to give you a optimistic vision to end on.
Come on, Yannis, try. Be an optimist.
Well, yeah, I was actually, you got this right. I was going to be pessimistic, but I actually believe there is a glimmer of hope. So let's start with the pessimism and then shed some light on it.
Yeah, and then transition, yeah.
There is a pessimistic scenario that, the right is what we call, Giorgos and Marina will know this, the right-wing building block, which is how the right wing is elected in Greece. You have a moderate right wing at the top, and then it has taken in all the far right. So that's how they get elected. And I'm really worried that the status of the left is hurt so bad at this time that when it breaks, we might end up with a situation like Hungary, where you have the far right government and the far right in opposition. So this is the worst case scenario. But for the small glimmer of hope which is much needed here, I wholeheartedly believe in social mobilizations. I mean, I see some dynamics. I've even seen in this absolute darkness. I've seen some moments that were pretty much, very hopeful and allow us to be optimistic. I actually believe in the cultural prevalence of the left. Also, it's in the way that it can actually intervene in everyday life and produce a way of looking at the very strong and very effective, where it can appeal to people. So so we have, for example, the misogynistic part that I mentioned, the big wave of a lot of violent crime recently because against women. But there's a whole thing that a very strong answer to this. There have been some demonstrations that have been very strong. There's a public discourse that's very strong. There is something that kicks back against it, and that's only one of the things that are happening that can give us a glimmer of hope. So yeah, I mean, even me being the most pessimistic from all, probably, I can still see something that could go well in the future.
Excellent. Yannis, thank you so much. Marina, thank you so much. Giorgos, thank you so much. And maybe we can check in with you in a few months and see how things have progressed. Hopefully not in a dire crisis, but maybe in a different way. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. I know you just hopped off a meeting at your job. But I think when we're talking to the others, that we shouldn't refer both to me, our committee actual clients and the things that you're doing as our jobs or real jobs, because it diminishes the job that we're doing here,
I mean, I guess, but does that mean you're going to start paying me?
This was, as I was saying it, the question I was not prepared with an answer for. You're asking the right question.
Show me the money.
I think that's good.
Show me the money.
Look, I'm just here to agree with you. It's, I'm here to just forge agreement. And the agreement is that you're asking the right questions. That's the agreement. Thanks for having us.
That's what we do at committee.
Hi, and welcome back to the committee program, where I am actually sweltering because normally I'm complaining that everyone else won't turn their fans off. And so I am actually in Greece where it's incredibly hot and I have turned the fan off. And so I just wanted to get full credit in that because all you ever see is me complaining about this. And while we're talking about complaints, actually, I had hoped to bring on in better circumstances someone for this very special segment who's Keegan Gudis. But actually, I've had to bring him on because of something that he has done. So I will bring him on and he will explain exactly what he has done in this special segment. But before, I just want to very quickly, Keegan used to work with me at Revolution Messaging. We were both actually partners there. He's a digital advertising expert. You may remember his, such as all the Bernie 2016 ads, which were certainly quite a few in quite a few places. But since then, I don't know, has sort of gotten to the pocket of deep artificial intelligence technology. I don't know. We'll bring him on and he'll explain. Xhevat, bring Keegan in. Okay, Keegan. Hi.
Run. Hey, how's it going?
I hate to make you do this in front of everyone, but I just need you to explain yourself.
Explain what?
Explain the things that you've done and what we're going to do now because I caught you doing this thing.
Are you talking about the robot?
They already know, so just tell them.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I didn't want you to find out this way, just to be clear.
No, clearly.
For a long time. While we were working at Revolution Messaging, I was saving all your scripts. Remember all those scripts that like the clients wouldn't approve?
Worth saving. Every single one of them was worth saving. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they were all going into a folder and I kept them and I was trying to build a robot out of them to replace you.
When you say robot, I mean, is this like a physical thing you're going to whip out here? Like, what are you talking about?
one day, I mean, at some point, I'm gonna have like.
Oh, it's like a chat. Is this like an AI thing?
Yeah, this is an AI thing. So it's I took all of your scripts, and I've been trying to create something that would just spit out versions of videos. My goal is to create the first AI political consultant based on your brain, but it's
okay.
Taking
As a
me a long
class
time.
of people, we deserve to be replaced. You know what I mean? Like we are. I will acknowledge that. I will. Yes, you are diving deep into the heart of my livelihood. But I acknowledge what you're saying is true. But I think a lot of this AI stuff, honestly, is super overhyped. And so I'm hoping that we can put it to the test, like a John Henry moment here, where I take on your machine and I best it. Yeah. Before we do that, can you tell us anything more that's behind it that maybe is interesting for the viewer? So this is not just a grudge match of me, hating on you.
Yeah. So after Rev, I started working with this company called Speechify, and they have a social platform that's powered by the same AI technology. And when I met them, the first thing that came to mind was like, finally, these are the people who can actually help me build a run robot. Because as you may have realized in the past, I think you caught me a couple of times trying to tinker with some stuff and asking you for maybe one more script note that you never noticed that.
Yeah, a couple too many rephrase that. So I was like, yeah, why? It's good this way.
So it turns out I'm not really good at building robots myself, but I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
Let me just be more genuine about this. What would Speechify use the Arun consultant robot for? Like you have something you want to turn into a variety of posts, and it was like, here's a short one for Twitter, here's a long one for Facebook, here's a medium-sized one with a picture for Instagram that I drew for you?
I'm not sure that they want to use your robot or not. I basically was like, I'll advise your company and help you out if you help me with building this robot.
What I'm asking is the company actually trying to have AI guided social posting? Because that's interesting, and that's what we're talking about on the show.
Oh yeah, no, totally. It's this is the future of where I see it going. I don't think that we'll actually, spoiler run. I've discovered along the way, I don't think it's truly possible to replace you, but I think that we can use these robots to help us.
We'll find out.
But so back to Speechify and what they're working on. You know how like all of our clients used to use these toolkits where they would like create a Google Doc and they would share it with people who support their organization,
yes,
other partner organizations, and no one would use the Google Doc because it's like a 20-page document and you start reading it and your eyes gloss over. So at its core, they built this platform that replaces that, makes it more efficient for supporters to share your social content or other organizations share your social content. But on top of that, they've been building this AI writing assistant, which allows you to, it gives you hints based on like what performs well on social media. Sort of like a Grammarly like recommendation engine, right? Like, so you write this thing, I'm Arun Chaudhary and I'm running for office. And it's like, well, maybe you're not saying enough there. You should add some of this stuff in and maybe add an emoji or two to your like tweet and that will do better based on
it could be
data.
like, have you put a value statement up top or are you trying to explain your way to the end, which is the number one thing that you do in anyone's thing. Also, not trying to help your robot out. The other number one thing you do is you cut off the first and the last sentence and see what it looks like, because more often than not, you've spent all this time crafting the perfect opening and closing when you just should have gotten started, and when you were done, you just should have ended.
This is why I'm taking your material and building robots with them.
Okay. You know who else is in Greece is Nomiki, so I think we should bring her in on the show and maybe have her judge so that it's not you who have a very vested interest in the machine doing well or not. I mean, I don't know.
Whatever you
Xhevat, let's bring in Nomi. Nomi!
Hey!
Hi!
Greetings from the committee program.
What's going on, guys? Lots of things are happening here.
I feel like we're in the studio next door, except like we're not. You know, it's like if we're like at Rockefeller Plaza or something. I will give you very quickly the rundown. You know Keegan, of course. You all have.
Hey, Keegan. I remember you from the last 7 years of my life.
Yeah. So now apparently he's a scientist, and he's been pilfering all of my scripts that I wrote at Rev and has fed them into a machine, and now the machine is a robot that is its own autonomous political consultant.
Okay, so first
that's
off,
the dream.
lots of questions about the economics behind this. But if it's going to replace like the DNC consultants, I mean, they basically are robots already, right? So.
You know what it could be, and I'm serious, is it could be like a baseline where it's like, if your consultant is not beating the AI, then they should lose the contract.
Oh my God, I love this. Yes, yes.
That's actually sort of interesting. Keegan, we've got something here, maybe. All right, let's do this.
And that's how you fix democracy, guys.
Well, yeah. So
you want an ad? What do you want?
We need to come up with a topic. So I don't run like something that you want to write an ad on. What's been bothering you or making you happy lately?
Goddamn wealth and income inequality. I don't understand what you're even talking about. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're working on.
Goddamn
so we're
it.
gonna focus on wealth and income inequality.
Okay.
So I mean, like how provocative do you think we can do here? Is this like broadcast or is our former lawyer would
interesting.
say,
let's say it's television. Let's say basic cable television. Programmable basic cable television ads. So we're setting it to households.
So not just
saying.
the internet, like as Joe used to say. It's not just the internet.
Not just the internet, as Joe used to say.
Little spot.
He was our lawyer at Rev, and if you said anything to him, like he wouldn't be because we're the internet people. We'd be like, we're gonna do this, and he wouldn't be listening. He'd be like, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that. And then you'd be like, and then we're putting on television. He'd be like, oh, wait. What are we doing? You can't do any of that in TV. No.
There are rules there. Still, sort of. What am I doing? What do I do? Okay, yeah, go.
You're going to just say who wins, because I think Keegan's just going to be like, and the robot's the winner, and like the hand goes up.
Well, on top of that, I was hoping that we could maybe put some of the ones, maybe like...
Because we don't have voters. We can't test it that way. I think we're going to have to use the human factor here. So that's...
Well, yeah, I was hoping like maybe Nomi, the ones you like the most that we'll put on a website. I also bought the domain, I hope you don't mind, Arun. It's called arunversusarun.com.
No,
so
I like it.
I was thinking after this,
that's my
we could
name
put some...
twice. What's not to like?
I think you're gonna like your robot to run. I think you're really gonna like.
I'm really actually warming up to it. I came in here all ready to fight about it. I'm kind of like, maybe I can invite it over, meet my kids and stuff. Like
maybe they can take care of your kids when you want to take a break.
Yeah, I mean, if you're okay with it, Nomi, like maybe you could just we'll just jam on a few different scripts. So, a runner, you gonna keep time or
Who's
something
got a
like
few
that?
in
Two scripts.
Two scripts. I'm exhausted.
And do I? How do I know who's the robot and who's not? Is it like, is there going to be a blinder up, or should I close my eyes and just like listen? Because I'm still looking at Arun's facial reactions, which convinces me. I mean, TV is facial, right? Let's just be real. Does any of this even matter? Because don't people just watch things? They don't actually listen to them. Sorry, I'm debating the ethos.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it's
I've
not
heard this
true.
a lot of times. Yeah.
So Facebook lies about the number of people who watch their videos. That's fine. Like, they're just self-advertising. That's what the rest of us do too. We get it. But because they say all of these views on your videos are not real views, they're marking hundreds of thousands of hits that aren't really hits. And what's the one characteristic for all of them? That they're silent. And so basically weighted against the normal people watching your video, most of whom who engage in a serious way do listen with the sound on. Now we have this whole genre of text-driven movies, when anyone who makes films will tell you there's an accessibility issue. Obviously, you want things to be able to be read. But other than that, as prey, as people run up trees when there's predators, our ears are where we get all of our important sensory information, where we make all of our judgments from. Birds can see well because they have to go catch worms and fish and crap. That is not how people do. We hear a twig snap in the woods so that everyone in the herd knows that it's scary, and then we all go do something. So I actually think that audio is the most important component, and the kind of genre of audio-less political ads are, I mean, I don't even know, are just sort of cold, sweet air,
And that plays into TV too? Because wasn't Fox News' whole thing just say like the same thing over and over again and just make hot women do it? So people watch.
No, just I think having, when you have a soundtrack and you have a visual track, you make a conscious choice of whether those things say the same thing or whether those things say different things, which is also known as irony, I guess.
Got it. Okay,
Does the computer know irony? Does the robot Arun speak irony?
I don't know. I mean, I would say that like...
I'm going ironic here.
I mean, if it learned from you, I would hope so. But that's how do you teach robots irony? I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Okay, so you're going to give us both inputs, and then we will write a 30-second script? Is that the plan?
Am I giving it, or is Nomi doing it?
The inputs. Whoever wants to give us inputs is good.
I'll start off. You said income inequality. I'm just going to give you a sentence for us both to work off of. Nomi, do you mind just like timing us? Is that okay?
Sure, I have a timer on my phone. I can do this.
And you can tell us.
You guys are really annoying, by the way. All these questions.
It's like, I should be on the show sometime. And it's like, now you're involved in some weird thing. We don't even know how it's working.
Now I'm the assistant, guys. I'm the woman in the meeting who's taking the notes. I'm just kidding. All right.
Maybe I should type this so that I know if I've done 80 words, which is usually I aim for about 75 or 80 words for a 30-second script.
Oh, are we letting perfect be the enemy of good?
All right, I'm gonna do this on the computer. Okay.
Anticipation.
Okay. Thank you for joining in last minute. I'm sorry that just because you're in Greece with a run, he's dragging you into this.
It's okay. You know, I had to like stop talking to Prime Minister or something. No, I didn't. Just kidding. Just kidding. That's actually Run's life. That's not my life.
Well, I mean, first we're going to replace the political consultants, and then we're going to replace the politicians.
Oh.
Maybe.
I mean, they basically are just plug-and-play robots already.
Okay, so here we go. So everyone, just to catch you up, this is exciting. Keegan has developed a AI entity based on my script. So we're going to face off, and we're going to write some scripts based on some prompts. And we have a celebrity judge in Nomi. This is all happening. It's all very exciting. Here we go.
Ron, I call it Ra, just so you know. The robot.
You call it Ra?
Yeah, robot or Run. Ra. Is that too much?
Oh, Ra. I like that. Ooh, Egyptian god. No, that's just right. That sounds just about right. And I decided that you know what? I'm going to handwrite it. I would just do better. I'll have to just, I've written a million.
It's very human of you.
I get it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you're going to do human versus robot, you have to go
man.
Full human, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because technically you're working with a robot if you're on the computer.
Collaborator. Okay.
All right, Run. So this is the sentence I'm going to start with. That I'm going to put in the machine because I need to have like something to get it going. Let me know if you want to change it at all. All over the world, income equality soars to levels never seen. The time has come for us, quite literally, to eat the rich. Is that too much? Do you want to tone it down a little bit? I'm curious to see what the robot says when I give it a prompt like this.
I actually paused there for a second. So give me the prompt again. I don't even know what y'all are laughing about. This is terrible.
Damn it. Okay, so here's the prompt.
Yeah.
Let me know if this is too much. All over the world, income inequality soars to levels never seen. The time has come for us, quite literally, to eat the rich.
Ah.
Too much?
No. Okay, so you're going to hit start, and we're going to 30-second ad based on that?
Yeah, how long do I have to pull this in?
You tell me when.
Are you going to share your screen so we can see what you're doing, or is that not allowed?
There's nothing really to show yet. I like basically putting in and putting out. At some point, we will have a website, like a thing on the website.
All right. So when are we starting?
Now.
Okay.
Now. We good?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
30 seconds.
Oh my God. I don't know.
Ruh-roh. 45 seconds.
Scary.
This is why Jeopardy has music.
We can put music in. Xhevat, put music in.
Okay, you're 1 minute. Some check Instagram for a bit. 1 minute 15.
How many words should this be, Run?
1:30.
It's 30 seconds. It's okay, but I'm putting my pen down. I'm done.
All right.
1:45. Are we done?
That's right. 2 minutes. Who needs the whole 2 minutes? What am I going to do with the rest of the 15 seconds? Who knows? Work on my novel, study Italian, you know? Yeah. Translate French on the slide.
Oh.
Okay.
All
right, Keegan, what do you got?
I feel like this might scare some people. This one, maybe I shouldn't have been
Oh
telling a
no,
robot.
that sounds like it might be good. Go ahead.
Is this like a Mussolini script? It's like...
I'm a little worried about it. How do I share my screen on this thing?
You don't want to say it out loud?
Just share screen.
Well, so it is all over the world, income inequality soars to levels never seen. The time has come for us quite literally to eat the rich. Some are fat, some have muscles. There is a rich person to suit your tastes. Eat them and use their yachts and mansions as housing for the homeless. We have a secret recipe to ensure no one knows you're eating your fellow humans.
Okay, I find that to be an extraordinarily compelling ad. I just want to immediately say, like, right off, this is what I had, and maybe we'll make Jacopo, let's make a handwritten graphic of it so it looks cute when it goes up, you know what I mean? Okay. All over the world there is a hunger for knowledge, a hunger for safety, a hunger for sustenance. All over the world there is a hunger for more, and only one thing that stands in the way. Eat the rich. You deserve more. You deserve to feel full.
I think
mine's got more poetry, but the other one's very matter of fact, though. Like,
I love
yachts was a...
Can we get the second? I want to read the second paragraph of both of yours. You're sharing the screen, right? This is too good.
You want me to share this?
Yeah, read this.
Oh yeah, I want to hear the rest.
So
I'm on the edge of my seat.
So it wrote like 2 scripts by the time I'd written the one. Is that the idea?
Yeah, this is what it pumped out. Like, so basically the way I have it is I put a prompt in and it comes out with, I can set it as like come back with a sentence or two or medium amount of
the
text.
second one is just dark. The first one has some politics to it. The second one is just about eating people.
Keegan, please read. I can't read it. It's too far away.
I'm worried we're going to give people the wrong idea about AI here.
If you're just tuning in, we're not advocating for it.
I mean, I, for one,
I'm not sure that I'm
robot
comfortable not advocating for that. I'm advocating for that. I will read it. Conserved human meat. When not eating people, make sure you're storing them properly. The best way to do this is by draining the fatty liquids from them and stuffing them with cotton or paper to ensure not too much air gets back in. You can also remove certain organs which will inhibit decay so it lasts longer, such as the tongue or heart. Keep the temperature at around 45 degrees Celsius and store an environment free of spoilage organisms, such as your house. If there's no power or you live in the forest, whatever works for you.
How did it come up?
This is accessible to people who are different income levels, who have different access to electricity. I mean, I'm extremely impressed.
It's a how-to. It's basically a how-to.
But honestly, which do you think is better?
I mean, yours is obviously more poetic and like it's more of a political ad. I feel like this is a how-to. This is, starts off a little bit more poetic and then it just gets right to the point. It's more, Bernie had a way with his speeches where he was just like telling you as it is, but he just happened to be in front of like 37,000 people. So I don't know how this would play in front of 37,000 people as a speech, but I think as an ad, yours is more suitable for normies watching, cable news at night.
Can you imagine if Bernie was telling people how to eat people?
Yes, you can imagine just saying this in the Bernie voice. Should we do one more just to make sure that human superiority is...
Let's do one that's a little bit less kill all man.
I mean, it's a great week to do it, though. I mean, rocket launching, and this is perfect.
Do you want to do something about our friend Jeff Bezos going into space? Or,
I like
or,
it.
Sure. Yeah, let's keep it on. Let's keep
or
it on
do
rich people
healthcare.
and income and stuff. I'm already either that or healthcare, but both of those are things I'm pretty activated on. So.
No, but what do you want to do, Bezos or healthcare?
Space is spicier. I think we can go in a lot of directions that way. We're just like a little tired of the whole COVID thing, so.
Give me a prompt.
How about we only need one Bezos to end world hunger?
But that sounds like it's going to be eating him again.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
No, we need his money. He needs to be alive so he can give us his money.
How about Jeff Bezos is launching into space, but he should stay here and use his billions to save Earth?
Okay.
That literally is a Bernie line.
I mean, it's hard to disagree with him. I mean, like all these billionaires are like, we want to go into space, and we're all like, can we deal with these other problems here first? I mean, Branson didn't even actually go into space, right? Like he's like.
I got the alert, and then I got the alert that he's back. I don't get it.
It was literally like one of those vomit comments where you like go up and down. Like that was what gave it. Like I don't know.
He was like a shooting star. He was basically like an asteroid in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Except not a dead star. We are all made of stars. That could be the song.
We're just dust in the wind.
We're just dust.
All right, are we doing this? Jeff Bezos is launching into space.
Sorry, I have been.
Oh,
give me
okay.
a minute 30. I've been writing. Yeah. Sorry.
We'll give a run ahead
30
start
on the
this
board.
time.
Ground control.
I got excited about what I'm doing. I'm trying to rhyme something. I'm actually like trying to trying to make a satire of a song. So this is like hard stuff. I'm basically a lot of hubris happening over here. A lot of flying to the sun.
1 minute and 30 seconds. That's okay. We're singing, stars and space songs. Okay, you're going at 1 minute and 30 seconds. Here we are.
Ground control to Major Run.
Shh.
He's got to focus, Keegan. One minute left. Thirty seconds. Fifteen seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take off.
All right.
All right. You ready?
Okay. Who goes first?
Who went first last time? Okay, so Run goes first this time.
I actually think I went first last time. Is that wrong? No, you're right. The robot went first last time. Okay. Okay. So it's like the West Village. Like lights are coming down. It's it's a bit of a beatnik kind of like ex-jazz club vibe. Hitting down, and then we hear the bongos start. Okay. And this is based on Whitey on the Moon by Gil Scott-Heron. A rat done bit a rat done bit my sister Nell, and Bezos is off in space. Resources that we could use on Save the Earth. Instead, we cleave on class and race. What's he doing up there, all alone? I bet he must miss moving tons. He doesn't have to live down here to rake in the trillions.
Okay. I get it. Great poem. Good for primetime TV. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah. People remember Whitey on the Moon, I think.
Definitely the primetime
like
audience
no one
does.
remembers
Like this.
Keegan, what do you got?
All right, so this one not as like dangerous as the other one, at least.
I'm gonna lose this.
Maybe not as creative though. It's that Jeff Bezos is launching into space, but he should stay here and use his billions to save Earth. He really believes that his wealth works as a force for good, which makes him the ideal rich person. It's not about giving back. That's bullshit. It's about using all your money and power to save the planet. The answer is we can't wait. If we don't have people working on huge national infrastructure projects like solving clean energy and roads, we'll be too late. We need thousands and thousands of people innovating in a lab, not in space. So
it's clever.
It's interesting. I will say, in terms of sort of treating a lot of technology, and I talk about this when I give lectures and stuff, as sort of like a psychedelic thing where you learn one interesting thing and you don't worry about the rest. That it's not about giving back part, to me, is extraordinarily interesting and a bit sticky. You know, like sort of, you know, the idea, sort of poking a hole in the idea of charity and be like, don't give back, pay your taxes. Right. Like I could actually see using that as like a kind of drumbeat in a piece where you're like, you know what, stop giving back. Again, it's sort of provocative and a bit negative, and it comes right off the top. And just for that one kind of smart idea, I mean, look, Nomi, it's up to you, but I honestly, I will not be offended if you hand this one to the robot. I tried to be a little too clever and got, you know, I was trying to be too clever.
I think I'm going to grade them instead. Can I do that? I'm changing the rules. And like, it's different. Okay. Because again, it's the medium, right? There was like a line in the one with the AI that didn't make sense to me. Solving clean energy. And can you put the script back up again?
Oh, yeah.
This is so fast.
And don't forget to send those to Xhevat so we can edit with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love the that's bullshit part. That's very human of them. Which came up today. Arun and I talked to somebody and he's like, I can't say bullshit. And the guy goes, you can say bullshit. I'm from Israel. And he was... So this would speak very well to anybody who's Israeli, clearly. What does it say? Like solving clean energy and roads. I don't really understand solving roads, but so there's some grammatical issues there. I don't know. I feel like this one was a little too, like a third grader was writing a speech. Sorry, AI. And Arun was like, if Arun, as a professional, went on mushrooms and wrote a script that could still work because it would probably be with like the most amazing music and then like visually would make sense with the words. Yeah. So I think Arun, you win. I give this AI one like a. I mean, if they're going to be like both professionals, like actual consultants that you're paying tens of thousands of dollars to, probably way more, I would say this one gets like a D, and Arun could turn it in to an A, but like you need the other stuff to make it work, if that makes sense. Like once you put it together, it's going to make sense.
Right now. Yeah. Okay, yeah. You know what?
Sorry, Keegan.
Keegan, I think we're both very impressed, or at least I am.
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
I think you should get that website working and immediately come back on the show and let's do this again. And I will actually train a little harder because now I know this is a bit more serious than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's also like one of those things where I don't know if you'd be open to this run, but we could generate a couple of things where the robot starts and then you make it better, which is kind of where I think maybe this whole AI.
Oh, for next time, let's shift it. Did Arun or the robot write this?
Yeah.
That's good. I think the first one was really like, it showed like, there's these like little human moments in it. It really makes sense. It's just like, how does it all come together? How do you work like is it eliminating the jobs of humans, or can like there be one consultant who just gins out a bunch of scripts so they don't have other people writing the scripts? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm fascinated.
We gotta figure it out. The one thing that I will say is that and then I promise I will let you go, Nomi. I don't mean to drag you all down into like robot hell here, but the one thing I do think is interesting is that the disjointed nature of it does actually remind me a bit of Trump, where like the sentences don't go together, but they're all evocative of something.
Yes.
There is something to this sort of, I call him the racist jazz man, because it's just, it doesn't all hang together, but you sort of get it. I do think that there's something, maybe there's something wrong with his brain that makes him a bit more like that, or I don't know, but like, it sort of is working in a similar way to me.
Well, and Noe mentioned like this does read as though it was written. Like the first one was read like it was like a homicidal machine. Yeah, more of like a high school reading level, perhaps. But this one reads more like one of my elementary school students. One of my kids like wrote it, which. Like, I mean, to your point, Arun, I'm not trying to sound all elitist, but like Trump does kind of appeal to people who don't have good reading comprehension. Yeah. So like, and maybe that is the future of all of this, where it's like we put out like very quickly the bits, even if it's not well written or well produced, to bring people into the bigger, to get them to come to the rally to hear the politicians speak.
Well, that's kind of Biden's thing too. I mean, there is a folksiness that I think that we have completely abandoned in politics, and definitely on the Democratic side, a folksiness that appeals to everybody. But Bernie, he made it. He was professorial, but he wasn't really. He was speaking very, very simply, but he was just speaking forever about things that most folksy politicians don't speak about, like income inequality and the millionaires. We know the script in and out, obviously, but it was still simple. And like at the end of the day. But this is the question. Is it a speech or is it an ad? And so if it's a speech, like maybe we need someone to perform it so we can feel it a little bit more.
You have more leeway. You have way more leeway with a speech. Yeah, I think speeches can be lots of different things. People have different styles. The reason everyone kind of hones in on these few ad styles, and obviously we try to break out of that and be more creative, is because it's a more restrictive medium 100%, right? This is just how it is. But look, thank you both so much for coming on. Nomi, always good to see you on the show. Keegan, we'll have you back soon. Dr. Gudis. You're not mad, are you, Ryan? You're okay now? Like, you're not... No, I feel better now. I feel better now because I feel like I'm at least currently as good as the robot, and I think I understand your intentions behind it a little bit more.
How long have you been working on this, Keegan? This project? Years. Like 10, 5?
So, Arun and I started working together because he was working on his book out of our offices, and I was like, hey, what are you doing after you write your book? And he was like, I'm moving to New York. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, if that doesn't work out, maybe we can work more together. You seem like an
narrator. That didn't work out.
And we started working together, and yeah. So I mean, we used to joke at Rev with a lot of the staff, really what we should be investing in is cloning, because there's only so many hours in the day, and obviously we're all brilliant people and do really great work, but it was just hard to stay on top of all of the work because there's just
those North Korean scientists were not trustworthy people who we were working with on the cloning thing. Honestly, you make decisions, not all of them are good.
So maybe around it was probably sometime during Bernie, because Arun was all over the country and busy and tired, that I thought about okay, well, what if we had something that could crank out these scripts? I relied on Arun a lot to write scripts because he's a better scriptwriter than I am.
So you've been working on this for 5 years, and Arun has been doing this since JSA Georgetown, and you're 16 years old. So really, I mean, in 2 years, you could totally, at the rate of acceleration,
the curve,
you might be there.
The learning curve here for the machine is very smart, and that's why I think we should check in. Because just like with chess, it just took a couple iterations, and all of a sudden, you had deep thought doing its thing,
Yeah, I mean, and be clear, it really didn't take off until I met Speechify, because they actually had, I may pretend like I'm a scientist or desire to be one, but they have real scientists. So.
But you've got
they have math, you have the code. And with that, everyone dress for the job you want. Bye, folks.
Hi, and greetings from Frankfurt Airport, where we have been recording some of our last sessions here. It is not sleepy time for me. I do not have any of the accoutrements I like to do to relax when I read, but I don't want to deprive you of that relaxation that only can come from either imbibing words through the eyes or sometimes through the ears. And so for this sleepy time reading, I would like to continue with Elias Canetti's book, Crowds and Power, and talk about open versus closed crowds, which is him starting to put a finer point on what he believes these actual phenomenon of crowds are. We've been talking about this a lot on the show, first in terms of Canetti and then in terms of the French Revolution. But it's something that I think about a lot in the actual work that I do, not just in the kind of theoretical blah blah, but in the actual how do we appeal to people, especially online. We've talked about this. Online is hyper individualized. It's not a mass experience. And so how can we make it a mass experience? Okay, let us read. Okay. The open and the closed crowd. The crowd, suddenly, there where there was nothing before, is a mysterious and a universal phenomenon. Few people may have been standing together, 5, 10, 12, not more. Nothing has been announced and nothing is expected. Suddenly, everywhere is black with people and more, streaming in from all sides as though streets only had one direction. Most of them do not know what has happened, and if questioned, have no answer. But they hurry to be there where most other people are. This is a determination in their movement which is quite different from an expression of ordinary curiosity. It seems as though the movement of some of them transmits itself to the others, but that is not all. They have a goal which is there before they can find words for it, and the goal is to find the thickest spot where the most people are gathered. This is the extreme form of the spontaneous crowd, and much more will be said about this later. It is at its innermost core not quite as spontaneous as it appears, but except for those 5, 10, 12 people with whom it actually originates, it is everywhere else spontaneous. As soon as it exists at all, it wants to consist of more people. The urge to grow is the first and supreme attribute of the crowd. It wants to seize everyone within reach. Anything shaped like a human being can join it. The crowd is an open crowd. There are no limits whatever to its growth. It does not recognize houses, doors, locks, and those who shut themselves in are suspect. Open is to be understood here in the fullest sense of the word. It means open everywhere in any direction. The open crowd exists so long as it can grow. It disintegrates as soon as it stops growing. For just as suddenly as it originates, the crowd disintegrates. In its spontaneous form, it is a sensitive thing. The openness which enables it to grow is at the same time its danger. A foreboding of threatening disintegration is always alive in the crowd. It seeks through rapid increase to avoid this for as long as it can. It absorbs everyone, and because it does, must ultimately fall to pieces. In contrast to the open crowd, which can grow infinitely and which is of universal interest because it may spring up anywhere, there is also a closed crowd. The closed crowd renounces growth and puts on permanence. The first thing to be noticed about it is that it has a boundary. It establishes itself by accepting its limitation. It creates a space for which it will fill. The space can be compared to a vessel in which liquid is being poured and where the capacity is known. The entrances to the space are limited in number, and only those entrances can be used. The boundary is respected, whether it consists of stone, of solid wall, or of some special act of acceptance, or even an entrance fee. Once the space is completely filled, no one is allowed in. Even if there is an overflow, the most important thing is always the dense crowd in the closed room. Those standing outside do not really belong. The boundary prevents disorderly increase, but it also makes it more difficult for the crowd to disperse, and so it postpones its dissolution. In this way, the crowd sacrifices its chance for growth, but gains in its staying power. It is protected from the outside influence, which could become hostile and dangerous, and it sets its hope on repetition. It is the expectation of reassembly which enables its members to accept each dispersal. The building is waiting for them. It exists for their sake. So long as it is there, they will be able to meet in the same manner. The space is theirs, even during the ebb, and in its emptiness, it reminds them of the flood. And so the closed one seems like a much more conscious thing. It's a stadium, it's a theater, maybe it's a digital space. But that infinite growth, spontaneous thing, that's a different kind of crowd. And I do think you need the elements of both when you're actually trying to work practically and not just trying to describe a historical phenomenon. But anyway, I look forward really to digging into more on this text. A lot of you have read back saying that you're very interested in it. Maybe we need to do a book club with it or something. I don't know. Let us know if that's something you like to do. But in any case, thank you so much for joining us on the committee program, and we will see you next week.